Alright, boys and girls, today I'm going to start my 1 year and or 10,000 mile review of the WR250R. Kind of a review, kind of just a my take on it sort of video, because personally I don't feel qualified enough to make a actual review because I haven't rode very many bikes in my time in comparison to some people who I would say are qualified to make those reviews, which are mainly like, magazine journalists and whatnot, people who are paid to evaluate bikes, whereas I'm just, paying to have fun on them, essentially. Let it warm up for a second. Essentially, I just want to go over, me as the rider, how I've used the bike and what I've done to the bike to make it better at those things, and then overall just like how I feel it's done, or like the job that I'm asking it to do, how well does it do it at the end of the day. Because like at this point I've done just about all the modifications that I want. Obviously it's quite a bit different at this point. It's on supermoto wheels that I've rode it in dual sport trim quite a bit as well, and there's all the little things are pretty much done to the point where I feel comfortable saying that it would be complete, even though that's never an actual thing. Alright, so let's start with just me as a rider. I am 20 years old, 5'6", 180 pounds roughly. Let's see, in stock form the bike felt good. It felt soft, but it did feel good. But it was very comfortable for like single track cruising. I did away with the steel bars, partially for the look. I just prefer a pro taper, and also just to have like the same bar across the board. I'm a real big proponent of having all my bikes feel similar, if they're like dirt bikes anyway. And so the CR high bend is what I've came to like so far, and once I like something I just don't feel the need to stray away. I could like something else better, but if that day ever comes I'll just cross that bridge when I get to it. The foot peg to seat ratio, I'm, like I said, fairly short at 5'6", so I feel comfortable on it. I like to ride like toes on the pegs quite a bit and just with my heels up, and it's plenty comfortable for that. I've done, I'd say, well over 200 mile days on this bike. Never had much of an issue out of it as far as the seating position wise. And then bars, well, I did change the bars like I said, but the stock ones aren't too far off, and it's very, very similar, just traditional dirt bike seating. Knees bent, back very straight, or hands pretty much directly right out in front of you, and very traditional dirt bike stuff. If you rode one of them, you've rode all of them kind of thing. It's just minute differences between the two. One thing about this one, if you aren't familiar with dirt bikes, is that they're all very tall, and this one's no exception. I'm 5'6", and stock form I could tiptoe comfortably, and I've rode a lot of bikes over the years, so I've gotten used to like my height, I guess, in relation to dirt bikes. So it wasn't a huge issue for me, but it is a factor. I've got the seat concept low seat, and it helps some. I think it takes like 3/4 of an inch away, and you definitely feel it in the just sitting in traffic and whatnot. But more than anything, the supermoto wheels lowered it a lot. I think it was like 2 inches, and now it's more so like front low and before it was more front high, if that makes sense. The front sits lower now than the rear, and you can definitely feel that. It feels kind of like a bum up, head down riding position, whereas on dirt wheels and it's not like choppered out, but the bike definitely, it's just a bigger wheel in the front. It's a 21 and a 18, so it feels taller, even if it really isn't. Whereas Supermoto wheels are dual 17-inch wheels. Let's talk about the riding style. Obviously, on Supermoto wheels right now, so that's not very true to what the WR250R is. But essentially, mine's just a WR250X, which is the same bike with factory Supermoto wheels that they made from 08 to 2011. And those, I've never rode one, but I would assume they're just a lot like this. This is a 2019 250R, and they come with a different brake rotor. This is a Warp 9 320mm rotor, and I think they just come with a stock one. One that looks like the stock 250R rotor, just bigger. The front hub's a little different, I believe, to accommodate the bigger rotor. And there's one tooth on the rear sprocket that's different. I think it's a 43 on the R and it's a 42 on the X. So, I mean, nothing tragic, just the wheels and the type of tires that are on them, essentially. But as far as my riding style goes, I'd say the majority of this one's life has been spent as Supermoto, or like in Supermoto trim. And I would say it's about an 80-20 ratio as far as Supermoto to dirt and the miles that are been put on each set of wheels. The first 1,000 miles I did with it were on the dirt wheels with the stock tires. I don't think I modified it at all in those first 1,000 miles, actually. I might have, but very, very little. And it was awesome. I like that. It was actually a really terrific commuter on those 50/50 Bridgestone trail wings. Pretty sure it's what they come on. Just absolutely perfect little commuter bike. It's actually faster on the dirt wheels too. If you don't have like big chunky tires and you just run like those, like the 50/50 or even like a more street biased dual sport tire on the 18 and 21 setup, those wheels weigh way less, or they weigh far less. That sounded odd. They weigh far less than Supermoto wheels by, I mean, quite a bit, honestly, because I remember my buddy had one as bone stock on those tires, and I had this one with the exhaust and the power commander, but I was on Supermoto wheels, and he was much, much faster. But that's only if you're on stock tires. If you have a lot of rolling resistance with big chunky tires on there, it's not going to go as quick. At least in my experience. I'd say a lot of what I've done is this right here. Just commuting. Getting back and forth to work, riding to and from places, running errands, and just, generally cruising. And it is, for no more than I would say like 100 miles in a day, awesome for that. It is, I mean, you can ride it as far as you want, obviously, but I'd say just from a comfort standpoint, like that's whenever I start to get like a little bit of, soreness in the rump and whatnot. That's whenever I start to get like a little sore in my rear and whatnot. It's just with around the 100-mile mark, even with the aftermarket seat, it's just my kind of, that point where I start to get a little sore. And, like I don't get any of that on my daily commutes and whatnot. It's actually a really fun bike in town, just for the ability to, hop curbs, jump through, cut through parking lots, or, just, I guess, not exactly follow the rules, to be honest. You can just slice through traffic really easy. You just have to be willing to do it. Which, I mean, if lane splitting and is legal where you are and whatnot, this is a fantastic bike because it is quite narrow. The widest thing about it is the handlebars, and it absolutely I mean, it's just so zippy. You can fit it a lot of places. It stops amazing. It accelerates quite quickly, up to like 50 miles an hour. It's a really good bike for that kind of riding. Now, as far as like the back roads and whatnot that I'm on here, and a lot of the roads that I like to ride in, you know, my eastern Kentucky area, it does lack a little bit of power. I mean, that's what everyone's going to say about this bike, is that, oh, it needs more power, and it does. Like, it's quite slow in comparison to many, well, I mean, I don't know, in other bikes of its class I would say it's quite comparable, but for most people they're going to want more if you're riding it on the street consistently. And especially torque, like this bike gets up to speed good, you just got to rev it a lot. Most people don't want to rev a bike that much, and that's understandable. But I mean, I've came to enjoy it. I've kept up with, you know, plenty of other people on bikes. It just takes a little more work, obviously. Typically I ride with other supermoto buddies, and they're typically on DRZ 400s and CRF 450Ls and bikes of that nature. And you are slower, but not prohibitively so. Like, they're just gonna run off and leave you in the straights pretty much, and then you'll have to reel them back in whenever the road gets tight. Or on like long uphills, they're gonna be able to accelerate and you might not, and or they might be able to do wheelies in like third and fourth gear. And on this thing, it really doesn't want to pop up in anything higher than third, in my experience, with 1447 gearing on it. To get back on the topic of just overall riding style, I would say I'm a beginner to intermediate street rider as far as like cornering, general bike skill and whatnot. Been to the Dragon many times on it, loved it down there. Could overlay some footage of me riding and whatnot. I always felt pretty quick. Could always keep up with like guys on sport bikes down there. Keep up with my buddies on supermotos and sometimes outrun them. But I don't know, I'd say I'm kind of right there, middle of the road, not the greatest, not the worst. Try to be fundamentally just like really sound with the body position and technique and whatnot as far as, you know, just on the bike skills go. Also do a lot of stunt riding, just wheelies, stoppies, sliding around, backing it into turns and whatnot. Really enjoy that type of stuff. This bike's awesome for it because it doesn't have a whole lot of torque, so it can't get you in a ton of trouble. It's just a little more clutch work to, you know, bring it up into a wheelie or to back it in and whatnot. And then as far as off-road goes, I hardly ever off-road on the supermoto wheels. It's just not something I really want to do. But on the dirt wheels, I do ride it pretty much anywhere off-road. I've rode motocross tracks, I've rode trails, I've rode the streets, obviously, to get to the trails. I've done hill climbs, all kinds of good stuff. Really technical stuff, really just like long stretches of gravel road and whatnot. I mean, you know, forest service trails, logging roads. I've done, you know, just about anything that there is as far as my area goes in the off-road world. And same with the, you know, the pavement and whatnot and all that type of riding. And I feel like I've been, you know, pretty well versed in like what this bike's meant to do, other than maybe like the guys that want to build WRs into light ADV bikes. That's not really for me, in my opinion. I enjoy it, like watching it. It's cool to see guys go, you know, hundreds and hundreds of miles on these things and load them down like they're going to war. But personally, I like the lightweight, you know, just kind of street legal dirt bike aspect of it, and especially on the supermoto wheels, you know, just the flickability, the grip that they have to offer on pavement, that is, and the overall fun factor of it, just for a runabout bike. Or, you know, I mean, you can take these to the track, like I said, I've done it. You can go to the Dragon with them and rip for hours at a time, trouble-free. And just all kinds of good stuff of that nature. Alright, I guess I'll just talk modifications for a little bit then. Let's see. It's not a massive list, but it's a lot of little things, if that makes sense. Obviously, supermoto wheels, bought them used off Marketplace. Had to put the brake rotors, the sprocket, and the tires and the tubes in them and whatnot. All white plastics and graphics from MotoCal, and then the plastics are just OEM ones bought off Partzilla. Got the Pro Taper bars, Tusk handguards. These little handlebar bags are off eBay. They're super nice. IMS 3-gallon fuel tank in the clear color. A Seat Concepts low comfort seat. We got the Power Commander 5 and the FMF Q4 slip-on. We got the flapper mod, as some call it, which is a little flap in the airbox with a little vacuum hook that pulls it up and down. That's removed and the flap is screwed down. What else? What else? We got the AIS, the air induction system, which is essentially just like an EGR on a vehicle. That's removed. Is there anything else? I'm trying to think. We got that Warp 9 320mm floating brake rotor on the front with the little bracket to space the caliper out. Lighting. We got LED lights on it on the front with the turn signals from DRC, I believe, and then the DRC Edge 2 tail light with the same turn signals. I believe they're called the 601s. Little triangle looking outfits. And then what else is there? Those lights came with the little tail delete, or the license plate bracket delete, I guess you could say. Foot pegs and shifter. The foot pegs are just oversized ones. I forget the brand because these come with really narrow foot pegs. The shifter is for Moose Racing. I bent the stock one, otherwise I probably still have it. I did have the electronic jet kit, or the EJK from Dobeck Performance on this thing up until, I'd say, maybe 8,000 miles. 7,000 or 8,000 miles. So when I bought the FMF, I bought that electronic jet kit and had it tuned with that. And I've got a whole video discussing the pros and cons of those two and the differences in them and what I do and don't like about each of them. And that might be it. Or no, let's see here. I got this mirror from, what was it? I got it from Solo Racer. I actually don't remember the brand of it. It's on a ram mount. You can fold it up when you're going off-road, or if you just want to take it off real quick. It's very easy to do so. Sprockets, chain and sprockets is the primary drive chain with a 14:47 sprocket ratio using Vortex steel sprockets. Pretty good stuff. They've lasted some time now. The stock one probably would have lasted this long. I just replaced it because I wanted to change up that gearing, shorten it up just a touch. The case saver and sprocket guard is from Sandman Parts. It is just a little metal piece, and I know a lot of people are on his site. It says that you can't use a 14-tooth front sprocket to, or you can't use, or he's not liable, I suppose, for a 14-tooth front sprocket being used with his case saver. Like, if it rubs and whatnot, he has a disclaimer whenever you buy it that it's only intended to be used with a 13-tooth on the front. But, I mean, I'll say I've used a 14-tooth, haven't had any issues. see, personally, I've used it, I mean, you all already know, like the off-road minimally, the commuting quite a bit, and then primarily just a back road, you know, mountain cruiser kind of toy that's really fun in the twistier sections of road. And for that, I would say it's an 8 out of 10. Like, a lot of times you do want more power. There's no getting around that. And but it is a fantastic skill building bike. Like, much like a Miata is to, you know, track driving, or a go-kart is to even track driving. That's what this thing feels like. And I mean, I heard a lot of people say, you know, call these like kind of a step in between like a Grom and then something much, you know, bigger, you know, like a sport bike or a 450 Supermoto, or even like the 701s and whatnot, which those are, you know, they're actual Supermotos, but they're definitely a little farther removed from like what a converted dirt bike would be. Or just anything of that nature, anything bigger. These bikes will definitely teach you how to get the most out of the riding experience. Much like a two-stroke 125, like how those bikes will teach you how to ride a motocross track very efficiently. These will teach you how to ride in Supermoto trim. These will teach you how to ride the mountains and the twisty roads and whatnot very efficiently. Alrighty, folks. Now we're gonna switch it up a little bit. I got the dirt wheels threw back on the other day, and I'm gonna finish out this video talking about the WR250R and riding it off-road a little bit as it comes from the factory. Now, mine is a tad different. It's shorter geared, like I've said, but on these I've got a Tusk D Sport in the front and then a Kenda Trackmaster in the back, which is honestly starting to show a little bit of wear and tear. The knobs are starting to flatten out a little bit, but I've got some trails I'm gonna go hit on my way into work today and see if I can cover the last few topics I want to talk about on this thing. Alright, so let's talk maintenance. Maintenance for the WR250R. The basic gist of it is, I think every 26,000 you're supposed to check the valve clearance, and every 3,000 you're supposed to change the oil. And that's like the only two things that Yamaha, engine-wise, really wants you to do. But I want to go a little deeper than that. Let's talk about like appearance maintenance. Obviously, it's a dirt bike. There's plastic and graphics, and they're going to get scratched up if you ride it like a dirt bike. The frame, as far as like boot marks, and I typically ride in just regular shoes whenever I'm on Supermoto trim and whatnot. But even like scuffs and whatnot, I really haven't noticed too much. I do right around the shifter area. It's starting to get, you know, a little bit of scuffing and rubbing there. And let's see. Let's just talk about all the things I broke, actually. Because that would be a better indicator than talking about all like the little stuff. I broke a mirror mount when I dropped it in the driveway. I've crashed it twice on pavement, and that one of them was completely fine, and the other one, I think I bent a shifter, and that was it. I've twisted up my hand guards many times, but that's really what I want to happen, because if not, then the lever would bend. I scratched up my plastics quite a bit. Oh, I messed up my license plate mount too one time in one of those road crashes. Broke a turn signal. And in all honesty, that's about it. I mean, I've done pretty good as far as like even all like my little off-road tip overs and whatnot. Oh wait, no, I forgot one. My radiator is bent up because I dropped it on the right side once in a big rain rut out at an off-road park, and that did a number on that. I had to get rid of the fan shroud and then kind of rig up the new replacement fan back onto it. let's see if we can get into a comparison of other bikes. This is one I don't want to say I'm like terribly qualified to speak on, because I haven't rode all the other bikes like the KLX 300s, the CRF, now the CRF 300s, but in this thing's time, the CRF 250s. And what else? I rode some DRZ 400s. Those are pretty contested with these, as far as like the same buyers are typically looking at each. I have spent some time on more of like the performance dual sports, specifically the CRF 450L. I got two friends with those, and I've rode theirs quite a bit. But I don't feel like that's really a good, few $1,000s difference between bikes of that nature and bikes of this nature. And in my opinion, from everything I've read and everything that I've seen and whatnot, the WR was ahead of its time in 08 and still holds its own very, very well today. Everything on it, I always say, like talking about those performance dual sports, is almost the performance part. Like the suspension is very, very close to like what you would expect out of like a motocross bike or a high performance trail bike. The engine is very rev happy, loves to scream, but it doesn't have that, crazy hit or just like arm yanking pull of like a new YZ250F or YZ450F or something of that nature. And like the tires are even just kind of like a half and half, like road and street on the stock tires and everything. Like everything on it, and the frame, like even the trellis, I think is what it's called, is aluminum, but it's got a steel cradle and a steel subframe, so you can really strap some heavy stuff to it, mount some luggage and whatnot. It's like everything on it is very, very close to a performance part, and it's also very, very durable. Like even the fork seals, which is typically kind of a problem for me, because riding in really cruddy conditions, have lasted almost a year now. Everything that the streets and the eastern Kentucky dirt can throw at them. And I mean, the build quality on these bikes is just immense. Especially once you get rid of some stuff they're gonna cheap out on to keep the cost of the bike down. So like your stock turn signals are definitely like the big flappy plastic ones and whatnot. But like where it counts, like the engine, the controls, the suspension, your frame, the geometry of the thing, just the way it feels. It's a really, really intuitive and really durable bike to ride. And man, I just don't think you can get that for this price range. Like I said, a performance dual sport, especially those 450Ls, are a beast of their own, man. They are in a whole other ballpark, and that's why I don't think the comparison's really all that justified. But I mean, it's another bike I've rode, so I mean, I'm gonna compare it. And I mean, I'm saying that the 450L is better. It's also it's better as a rider's bike, but it's also much more maintenance heavy. And you are going to probably not own it as long. It's just the way the engine is built with the compression, the timing, and everything of it. It is built to go faster for a shorter amount of time. And I mean, that's just the most basic way I can put it. But I mean, there's guys on 450Ls out there with many miles on them at this point, and I don't think they've even so much as took the valve cover off. So who's to say? Honda is also, in my opinion, Honda and Yamaha both are known for the best build quality of all the bikes, even if they've not had the fastest bikes of any given year at any given moment in time. Although right now I would say Honda and Yamaha do have the fastest bikes in late 2021 terms. And speaking of all that, with the comparison to other bikes and whatnot, before we get too heavy into the trails here, let's talk cost, because these bikes kind of sit in a little bit of a middle ground, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure that when these were brand new, the MSRP is $6,700, and I got this one around $5,600 because it was set on the floor for a year. So I think 5600 is what most of like the KLXs and the CRFs actually start out close to. So I mean, these are expensive for their market. Like I said, I think a DRZ is close to like the mid 6,000 range, but I mean, even a DRZ in my mind fits a little bit different type of rider. I think they make fantastic supermotos, but I don't think they are the be-all end-all, you know, all-rounder dual sport like this is. But that extra torque and even the extra weight of the thing, I think makes for a lovely supermoto. Because this thing going down the highway is a bit of a handful, but a DRZ is like, oh, it needs a 6th gear. It's like, yeah, but it also tracks like much straighter because it weighs more and all that good stuff. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, these bikes kind of sit in the middle in like practically every category. Like if there's a sliding scale between like cost efficient and performance, these things are, I mean, like they kind of follow right down the board, you know, like as far as I can tell, and everything that I've rode and heard and seen and read, like they really are kind of the do-it-aller, and they really, it doesn't excel at any of them, but it will do it. Like, it's a ton of fun in the mountains on supermoto wheels, and it's a ton of fun in this creek bed on dual sports. I could be going way faster on my two-stroke 250, just like if I had a KTM 701 in the mountains, I could be going way faster there. But, or not a KTM, a Husqvarna 701. KTM makes a 690, even though that's practically the same bike. Just cruise some trails for a minute before I close the video out. 2nd gear. I love that little jump. Oh man. If I wish that tree limb wasn't right in the way, man, you could air that thing out. It used to. Have to come back here with a big knife or something. Cut all that crap out the way. Got messed up on that one. Now this right here is typically where it gets absolutely cruddy. And then this little creek's up here. Although it don't even look that bad. Like where I'm riding right here is bone dry. Oh, the water's real low. I can done tell. It's kind of strange, honestly. Hike your feet up, boys. Hike your feet up. See if we can get to the little pond up here. It's beautiful back in here. I had a buddy one time come up that hill on a two-stroke 85 old Suzuki. He was flying and absolutely came one hair of not winding up right in that pond. I mean, he jumped. That's not far, but it's far whenever there's a pond right there on the other end of it. And I swear he got to like right there, right at the very edge of the gravel before he got that bike stopped. I kind of want to ride out this way up into Letterbox. Let's see, what time is it? 2:40 almost. I think I can do it and make it to work in time. Yeah, alright, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a bit of an extended trail ride. It's longer than I thought we would anyway. This trail, if you cannot tell, is extremely rocky. Oh man, that'll beat you to death. Line choice is key through somewhere like that, because man, you can make a big mess if you're not careful. Whew, okay. Would like to extend a big thank you to anyone and everyone. If you're watching this video, stuck it out all the way to the end. I know I've rambled and rambled and try to stay on key points and whatnot, but that's pretty tough when you got a brain like mine. So, once again, thank you. Hope you come again to watch some more videos on this and my many other motorcycle endeavors. If you're into dual sport, supermotos, two-strokes, even, you know, cruisers, plan on owning another Harley pretty soon, all kinds of good stuff like that. So stick around, keep watching, subscribe.